We are live on the Zone Heads podcast. I'm Brandon. He's Zach. Wild weekend. Some big time late breaking news in the NBA that hit on Sunday morning. Kendrick Lamar won Grammys, and there's a game next Sunday that we've got to dig into as well. Welcome in. If you're joining us on Facebook or on Twitter, hello. If you are joining us on demand, you can always do that as well. You can find us on YouTube. Just search my name, search Zach's name, or the Zone Heads podcast. And of course, wherever you download your favorites will be there as well. Sponsor read. Let's pay the bills before we get into the action. Looking to buy, sell, or invest in a home in Central Florida, you need a realtor who not only knows the market, but has the experience to protect your investment. Meet Kevin Crager with LPT Realty, one of the top 25 producing agents in Central Florida. When it comes to real estate, experience matters. Trust me. I know I just went through this experience. Zach did as well. Trust Kevin Crager to guide you every step of the way. Call him 407-702-4635. I'll have that number scrolling at the bottom of the screen in a moment as well. Real estate made smart. Go ahead and give Kevin a call today. Zach, my head is in a blender on this fine Monday morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Happy to be chatting with you, obviously. And we got a lot to get into today, definitely from the football perspective as we roll out of the Pro Bowl weekend and into the big game. We got the Super Bowl right around the corner with the Chiefs and the Eagles. But there was a moment this weekend where I forgot that football existed. And I went to bed early on Saturday because the Gators got shellacked by the Volunteers in Tennessee. So I was watching hoops. And then I, didn't really have a lot of oomph left after dry January and a few bourbons and a little bit of despair watching Florida.
By the way, welcome back. Welcome back to the wet side of things.
Life is good.
Dry January is over.
I missed it. I missed the bourbon specifically. So I didn't go crazy, but
how's the brain fog? Are you good?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm good today. I didn't drink on Sunday. I'm still trying to be mindful of it for sure. But that first day, it's just crazy how different it hits you if you take some time away. Like I was sipping bourbon pretty consistently to where I was just like, it was like water for me. And I felt it. It was good. It was nice. It was nice that after just a couple, I was kind of rolling. But the Gators were not, and I was in a good hoops mood until that game. I kind of checked out after it. I woke up to just bad hoops news and crazy hoop news as there was a gigantic trade in the NBA. Brandon, it feels like I've never seen anything like that from the outside looking in with the Lakers and Mavericks. But is this just me as a casual maybe overthinking what happened?
I don't think you're overthinking it. I have a list right here. I'm looking at. I'm going to see if anything even comes close to comparing, because it's not like this is the first time we've seen a trade that is of this magnitude. You had Kawhi Leonard was traded to the Toronto Raptors back in 2018 for DeMar DeRozan. He helped them win a championship. He was one of the best players in the NBA when that went down. You had guys like Kyrie Irving getting sent from the Cavs to the Boston Celtics several years ago. Kevin Durant going from the Brooklyn Nets to the Phoenix Suns. But a lot of these are spawned from a player not wanting to be in a certain location anymore, or a franchise growing tired of a certain star. The Magic went through this with Dwight Howard. He was a year away from his contract expiring. He kind of let it be known that he wasn't going to sign a long-term deal, and the Magic were forced to shop him around, and he gave them limited options of where he wanted to go, and it dampened the overall return. This kind of thing has been happening in the NBA for a long, long time. The uniqueness of it is the age of Luka Doncic. He's 25 years old. The quality of his play. At his best, he's a top 3 player in the NBA. He's a top 3 skilled basketball player on planet Earth in the middle of the beginning of his prime, however you want to phrase that. And he had 2 years left on his deal, and no one saw this coming. So in that way, yes, it is historically unique that it went down this way. And this is why I love the NBA, Zach. You don't see this in other sports. And honestly, you are starting to not see this in the NBA anymore. Adam Silver and the powers in charge of the league have shifted the contract structures quietly in the dark shadows of the league offices They have made it a lot more enticing for these players to just stay where they're at. Luka Doncic, and this is a part of the story, could make significantly more money if he was still on the Dallas Mavericks and he signed a supermax with them. He's not even eligible for that contract anymore because he's not on the team that drafted him. So if you either have to get traded on your rookie deal or you have to sign with the team that drafted you to get the max amount of dollars that you can make. He's still going to be a wealthy man, but that 325 overall contract is out the door now, and it limits movement because guys are happy where they're at. It keeps a Victor Wembanyama in little old San Antonio. It'll keep a Paolo Banchero in little old Orlando. It is bizarre, but I love it. My number one reaction, Zach, is like, how can you not love this? This is what the bread and butter of the NBA. It's a transactional league where one player makes that big of a difference.
Yeah,
about this, I'm too pumped.
No, it was awesome. I mean, and I'll tell you, for me, like, I've kind of dipped off a little bit from the NBA side of things. Obviously, we got the Super Bowl coming around. There's been playoffs both in college and the NFL. You had the holidays. So, like, I've kept up as a casual NBA fan as much as I usually do. I saw that happen and immediately was like, I'm ready to dig back in. And that's the beauty of those types of trades. I mean, I straight up was watching and checking in on the Mavericks their next game where they got crushed. I don't even remember who beat them. They got their ass kicked.
The Cavs beat them by like 40.
And the Cavs are, they've been really good this year. I remember their start, obviously. They went on that streak to begin the year where they weren't losing to literally anybody. But that being said, it was just like a wild thing to see. And then to see players on social media around the league reacting to it, like their minds were blown.
It was just like the rest of us, like Kevin Durant. Did you see the video?
One of us.
KD and Bradley Beal looking at their phones, finding out when everybody else is awesome. Finding out.
But again, those are the types of things, Brandon. It connects you. It connects the sport. It brings people in. And even in my group chats, like we were talking more about the NBA and basketball heading into a new week and ending the weekend than we usually are this time of year. Again, with 5 or 6, 7 days to go, I guess now before the Super Bowl takes place. So, yeah, I thought it was great for the league. I think these are the types of things that help the league. I understand also on the flip side, trying to keep stars in places and have some more parity. It's such a weird divide because, again, you look at the National Football League, which is the king of kings when it comes to professional sports here in the United States. And you're like, why can't they ever capture things like this? And I think it's because of the parity in that league to where they're like uber afraid to give away any draft picks or any players. And I think it's obviously more nuanced than one or two things. But I think unlike that, you have the NBA where superstars do get moved. And because there's only 5 guys for a team on the court at a time, it means more when a guy goes elsewhere. We've talked a ton about Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, but they still need Josh Allen and, Jalen Hurts and these defenses. Like, they still need all this other stuff to click for their teams to be true contenders. I mean, you throw Luka on the Lakers, and I think all of a sudden we're looking at that team like a true contender.
And there really aren't great one-for-one comparisons with the NFL. I know a lot of people have attempted to do that. You have to go to the quarterback position because that's the only position that means as much to a team as a single superstar means to an NBA roster. So you can forget literally everybody else in the league if you want to go for the one-for-one. This would be like finding out Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow got traded in the middle of the night. That is as close as I can get. My wife asked me yesterday, is this like Mahomes getting traded? And I'm like, well, let's slow up a little bit. Okay.
That would be even crazier. That would actually, but again, that doesn't happen in the National Football League.
It doesn't because teams, they don't let go of these guys.
No, they don't. Well, Mahomes got like a 10-year deal and they've already like reworked it a couple, like it's just different. The contract situation's different. Again, you're only playing 5 guys on the court at a time versus what you have for a football team. Like, there's just no way, Brandon, I think the way the two leagues are set up and the games are played for them to kind of happen in the same way. So I think this is an area where the NBA will kind of always have the NFL.
But it shouldn't work that way because it is so much harder to make a trade in the NBA than it is in the NFL. You have to price match salaries. They have this confusing tiered system of a first apron and a second apron team in terms of the tax that you have to pay as an owner. If you go over a certain apron, you got to come out of pocket as an owner. And unless you're the Celtics or the Warriors in their peak, you're not going to do that. And so there are all these penalties and things that you have to work through, and draft picks aren't nearly as valuable in the NBA as they are in the NFL. And a lot of picks that get traded in the NBA have protections for lotteries. And it is so confusing for the average fan. I'm a hardcore NBA fan, and I have a hard time explaining this stuff. I do a podcast with Mike Giannetti of SpotTrack.com, who literally covers this stuff day to day, and I have no idea. I'm making it up on the fly while I'm talking to him. Okay. It is incredibly complex. This should be happening in the NFL. When like Tua should just get traded in the middle of the night, because they could do that. It would be so much simpler to get trades like that done. Yet in the NBA, it is a soap opera league where this stuff just happens more, or maybe it just feels more impactful. I don't know. It's crazy, and it's hard. I feel bad for the people of Dallas, Zach. First of all, let me get that out.
Well,
we just got past
because
Christmas.
of this. I do
think of how many Doncic jerseys just got. How many kids in Dallas unwrapped their Christmas present a couple of months ago? They had a Doncic 77. They're holding up.
They've had success in that franchise. You know, I don't feel bad for them. They've had some fun.
Think about it like
championships.
this.
They had Dirk. They've had some fun runs. Recently, they were just in the title game.
They had Jalen Brunson, who let go into free agency a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that one was tough.
They let go of Kristaps Porzingis, who went to the Boston and won a championship. And Luka. They had 2 years ago. They had all three of these guys.
That's the one that's going to stink. Because what are you doing? And like, you bring in Anthony Davis and the rest of this crew, Brandon. Like, Dallas is just in shambles. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to say about them.
So I fired on.
Oh my!
I made a bet after the trade because I thought we actually got some good value. I took the Mavericks to win the Western Conference after the deal, because I think Anthony Davis I like the construct of their roster now with Anthony Davis in the middle. Kyrie Irving does a lot of the same things that Luka does. So you're not like, it was always a little redundant to have those two playing together, and they made it work because Luka's that great and Kyrie was finally dialed in again. They're so talented that other teams just had trouble defending those guys. But roster wise, like, you wouldn't build a team and go, I need Luka and Kyrie, and then we'll build around that. It doesn't make sense. Anthony Davis fits what they want to do. He is playing like an MVP. I think and a lot of this is just based on price. They're like 25-1 to come out of the conference. I think it's good enough value. The Lakers have shorter odds than them. Please. Okay, that team isn't winning anything. As great as LeBron and Luka are, you talk about redundancy. Luka is LeBron. Luka is LeBron without the athleticism. They're the exact same player, except LeBron is a freight train and Luka is a white European. That's the only difference. I don't know how this works. I don't know how it works with the two of them together, but I do like Dallas now. But moving forward, like, how do you give – this is the thing I can't get past, and we'll get to the Super Bowl bets. I'm processing all of this on the fly, okay? How do you give the Lakers Luka Doncic? You just give it. Here's your future. How do the Lakers always do? They always trip in to the next guy that carries them for 10 years. They're the luckiest franchise in the world.
I don't think it's all luck, though. I think they're a franchise too, Brandon, that has that kind of legacy where players try to get there. So I think that there's probably a lot more behind the scenes that we're not privy to in those chats when guys are getting moved. And that's why it probably seems that way. I was going to say, as we talk about, moves and leagues and all that, you have Major League Baseball over here drunk as hell, and the Dodgers just loaded up with 40 of the best players this offseason. So as much as I can be like, I don't know if the NFL can replicate what the NBA does, at least it's not MLB. It's just this for me, and I know the Dodgers are high because they just won a championship. We're not going to talk a lot of baseball, any baseball today. I don't know how you're watching this offseason play out as a baseball fan and thinking, this season will be cool. Like, for me, this is such an ugly look for the league that the Dodgers are just stacking up even more after a championship. Like, baseball has a problem, and they don't care. And if they don't care, why should fans?
I don't know how anybody stays competitive with them. I mean, even Hal Steinbrenner, the owner of the Yankees, is like, yeah, owners just have a hard time spending with these guys. Dude, you own the Yankees. You're the last person that should be uttering a statement like that. Yeah, here we are, and they're using all of these deferrals to kick it down the road and just make all of the dollars work right now. It does feel a little bit imbalanced. It's baseball. Things happen. A lot of injuries occur. They still have to make their way through that, but they were banged up last year. I think that's the thing a lot of people forget about LA. They were especially their bullpen was ravaged with injuries, and they still won a World Series. And Shohei Ohtani wasn't pitching yet. It is pretty nasty, but here goes LA. The rich get richer.
It's sickening. It's sickening, but whatever. I'll complain more about baseball in a few weeks after we've rolled through the Super Bowl as we do transition to the big game, Brandon Kravitz. And look, I've already got my main bets down. I've been heavy on the Chiefs. We've talked a lot about Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. And look, I haven't gotten away from that. Like I took the Chiefs -1.5. I like the over. It's set at 49. That hasn't moved. And then we'll get into the player props too here, but those are two things before I guess we move to the player props, just to kind of show where I'm at and where a lot of my bankroll is on the Chiefs at -1.5 and the over at 49.
All right. And you have those together or are those separate bets?
I did both. Yeah. So I do have those. I'm going to bet those separately too. And I think and I've talked about this before. Like I really do dig in for Super Bowl Sunday. I've had a lot of good times doing that from a betting perspective. So like for me, this is the type of game and weekend where I will like add bankroll. I will like put extra on stuff. Now, if you lose, you lose, but it's a long off season until football's back. So it is what it is.
Real quick, I misspoke. It was 16-1 to get Dallas out of the Western Conference, just in case you wanted to go.
A little different than 25-1.
I got excited. Okay, I just had an espresso shot. So I have made one bet. I have made one bet so far for Super Bowl Sunday. I've got a bunch that we're going to go over here that I really like that I probably will place, but I don't want to have 15 bets out there. I'd like to whittle that down to more like 8 by the time we get there. So I'm going to try and...
I want 15, baby. I want 15, baby. I want all the bets, Brandon.
If I get to 15, I get to 15. But I'm going to try and, consolidate a little bit. Maybe put a couple in a parlay, a couple by themselves, get a little creative with it. But I have one bet that has been placed. It is at +165 odds. It is a parlay. Chiefs win the game. No spread, just a winner. And I took the over under down to 45 with the over. So over 45 points. Chiefs win the game at +165 is the only bet that I have placed so far. But I like the Chiefs -1.5. I just kind of wanted to see what the betting market out there would do with this. It went up to 2. It went back down to 1.5. It feels like it is parked there. You have two sides, and I don't think that one side is sharper than the other. When you get down to the wire like this, they're going to be professional bettors on both sides of the equation. Anybody that has a model or a power rating system has the Eagles as favorites in this game, and they will follow that model, and they'll take the Eagles. Anybody who watches football that just goes off of what they see historically, quarterback coach combos, are going to bet Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. It's just a matter of what side do you want to be on. Do you want to trust the computer? Not saying it's wrong. Or do you want to trust history and the best quarterback in the game? And I think that's what it comes down to. I'm going to be on the Chiefs. I'm just waiting. Just because I don't think the number's going to move. I don't think you have to bet Kansas City right now.
No, and again, I think you throw logic out the window with Mahomes at the helm. That's something we've talked a lot about the last couple of months. Yeah. So there are a lot of good props out there. I want to see if there's any touchdown props that you like. Obviously, Barkley is the biggest one that you can get at -230. I don't even know if it's worth betting. At that point, I'd rather have Hurts at -155 from an Eagles rushing standpoint. Every Chief is in the plus, though, and then every other option for the Eagles is in the plus. Are there any plus value bets that you like from a touchdown perspective And why is it Travis Kelce?
It's not. I'm having a hard time with the Kelce props because I mean, he's already shown you the Jekyll and Hyde in this postseason already. He was great against the Texans, and then he looked as washed as he's looked all season long against the Buffalo Bills. So I just don't know what version of Kelce we're going to get. If I'm betting on what I think the player is right now in his career, I'm taking unders and I'm not touching touchdowns. But if you tell me, hey, I looked into a crystal ball and Travis Kelce turned back the clock in the Super Bowl, there's not going to be an ounce of my being that's surprised by that. The only plus odds touchdown prop that I love is Devontae Smith of the Eagles. He hasn't scored in the postseason, but this is a big game player. There's going to be so much attention on that ground game, and Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley. And if you've got McDuffie following anybody, it's going to be A.J. Brown. Smith should have a good matchup. I like his moxie in these big games. You know, think back to him in the national championship. He performed in a big way. So I like, and the fact that you're getting him at plus 250, that feels like a bargain. So I'm going to be on that for sure.
See, I don't love any of these touchdown bets, whether it's the value that you get for the ones that we would bet or just the likelihood of some of these other guys getting in. But joking about Kelce, I mean, Noah Gray's plus 425, and that's a guy that seems to just show up randomly, another tight end there for the Chiefs. Like, that's one where I'm like, okay, if I'm strictly betting touchdowns or I'm just trying to sweeten the pot, I would throw him in there somewhere.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
I
one
like
thing we do love, and I know you and I.
Well, before you move on, I want to do one more touchdown prop, because this guy will probably be throwing him to score a touchdown in a parlay at minus 155. Jalen Hurts is going to get in the end zone in this game.
Yeah.
It's just think about how good he was the last time these two teams met in the Super Bowl. I want Jalen Hurts props, and around the goal line, we know what the Eagles like to do. So for him to score a touchdown minus 155 is a little too juiced to take it by itself, but to score twice is plus 325, and I think I might take a little nibble of that. Jalen Hurts scores 2 touchdowns for plus 325.
And I do want to pivot anyways to Mahomes props. Mahomes at plus 275, and they were running him a lot last game, right? Like, he did get into the end zone with his legs. And I know, just to kind of bleed into the next prop, Brandon, I know we both like Mahomes over rushing. I see that that's actually up. I got it at 29.5. It's at 30.5 now. If we think Mahomes is going to run for some first downs, I don't think it's insane to also think he might rush one in, especially if we think over is a strong bet in this game.
Yeah, I'd be curious what this number is typically at, because I'm guessing that you're not getting great value comparatively to what his number usually is. I mean, think about it. Throughout the course of the regular season, he had 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
I know it's different in the playoffs, but it didn't have any against the Houston Texans. This could have been very much a Buffalo dependent thing.
Yeah.
And I heard it was I neglect to remember who it was that brought this up, but was essentially saying that what Kansas City did game plan wise when they went back and watched the film is they took a bunch. This is so savage. I love this. They took a bunch of Buffalo's plays and they used them against the Bills. That was why you saw a bunch of these plays from the Chiefs where you're like, have they run that before? I had that thought several times watching the game. Not that I've got the Chiefs playbook written down or anything, but Mahomes was running a lot more than he usually does. He was running a lot more towards the goal line than he usually does, which is why this is interesting. But that's what Josh Allen does. And it was almost like they were like, you know what? You know what would really confuse Buffalo is if we just used their plays. And it felt like that's what they did. I think the touchdowns might have been an outlier. I'm not willing to take the plunge, but I do like the over on rushing.
Jalen Hurts likes to do the same thing, just for the record. And the last time
these different, two teams though. He's more of like a bully ball.
I know.
They're not tush pushing Patrick Mahomes, okay?
No, they're not. Mahomes also, on the last Super Bowl they played against each other, it was on one leg. So I don't know if that's something where they're like, look, this guy he's loose now. We're going to show it off like we couldn't the first time we played y'all. But that's, and I know there's a lot of pieces that transition over. don't use that game. I know you did, but that was more of a joke. Don't use that game as an indicator on what to bet this game.
Well, I'm kind of doing that though.
No, bro. They're different.
There's so many of the same.
So
I'm not
different.
saying I'm not going to mirror the whole thing, but why would it be that different? The coach is the same, the quarterbacks are the same, a lot of the key pieces on offense and defense are the same. Why would I look at this and say it's going to be any different? And this is one of the reasons I love the Mahomes rushing prop. The yards, not the touchdowns. He didn't score a rushing touchdown the last time they met in the Super Bowl, but he had 44 yards rushing. And like you mentioned, that was on one leg. So I'm thinking he'll get to 30 here in this one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, either way, we're on the same page there. So I'll stay.
I think I might just, I'm just going to bet everything that happened the last time they met in the Super Bowl to happen again.
Well, I made a lot of dough. If that's the case, I'm going to double up 2 years later.
Well, let me ask you this then before you move on, because what do you, off the top of your head, what do you like that didn't happen the last time that you're willing to bet on this time, if that question makes sense?
Well, I mean, Saquon Barkley, obviously you love him being a big factor in this game. You love him stocking up some yards. So I know it was close. I wouldn't be shocked if he had, 111 rushing. I don't love it, but I probably will bet Barkley over 111. He wasn't in the last game, obviously. Let me look and see some of these other guys. Jalen Hurts over 40 yards. I wouldn't be surprised if he's scooting too. Breaks a couple. I don't remember if that did or didn't happen last game. I mean, Jalen Hurts should have been MVP even in the loss last game. He played so well.
Oh my God, he was amazing. He had 304 yards passing. That might be the prop that I look for with Jalen Hurts. His passing prop is at the low 200s. I think that's ridiculous. He was at 304 in the last Super Bowl, 70 yards rushing, 3 rushing touchdowns.
Jeez.
I mean, he was awesome.
I'm going to be all over that.
That's what I mean.
So that's the thing.
Here we go.
That's not different.
We're mirroring this. We are mirroring Super Bowl 57.
But we're also looking at what Jalen Hurts is still doing. If he had stopped running the ball, he's still doing that. Him and Barkley ate last weekend or 2 weekends ago in the conference title game, rushing the football. So we know that they can. Looking through some of these other ones, it's tough because Xavier Worthy, I think he's going to get fed early on. Over 5.5. I think Mahomes is going to be slinging it a little bit. I don't know if Kelsey, I'd probably take his under 6.5. I kind of like Worthy over 5.5. I kind of like Juju over 1.5. I could see him having a couple catches.
His over under is 1.5 for catches.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's my favorite one.
13.5 yards. I mean, that's literally 2 catches for Juju.
Wow.
Yeah, I would probably I would do that. I would parlay that.
I like Dallas Goedert over 4.5 catches too, but it's at minus 135. So that's another one I would look to pair with something else. But Jalen Hurts is going to look his way. That's his safety blanket, and you need safety blankets in a game this big.
What's Pacheco? What's his life like right now?
Okay, I'm glad you brought him up because this is going to be one of my favorite
21.5 points is so small, dude.
Yes, he hasn't hit over 21.5 yards rushing since December 21st. He's going to be their 3rd leading rusher in this game.
He's just not healthy.
They're using him like he's not the same. Kareem Hunt's been their primary back. They're still using Samaje Perine, and we both expect Patrick Mahomes to be close to the 40s in rushing yards. It just doesn't leave a lot. The Eagles' defense is really good. They're only going to have so many guys that are able to get past 30 yards rushing. Pacheco, the number is really low, but 21.5, I would take the under.
Yeah, here's another thing you can bet on Pacheco too. Rushing attempts for 6 plus 140 minus 145 for 9 plus, but you can't do unders. These are all overs. 6, 9, and 12. You have to bet the over though in each one of those. I don't even know. I mean, I would only be willing to take the. Yeah. If you think he's going to be under on that, yeah. Mahomes rushing attempts, though, also same idea, overs. You can get him for minus 170 for 6 rushing attempts. I think I could see him booting and scooting 6 times. QB
He was at
deals count towards
exactly
that. Right?
6. He was at exactly 6 in Super Bowl 57. I'm using just use the box score as your gauge, ladies and gentlemen. This game, I really
You're
think this game is
ridiculous.
going to look similar. I don't think they're going to score into the 70s like they did last time, but we both like the over. We both like Jalen Hurts props. We both like Mahomes rushing props. I'm just not seeing a lot right here that's different. You know what else I like a lot is Eagles money line first half. Plus 115 for them. Plus one. This is the way. So I lost a lot of money on the Super Bowl last time. Full disclosure, but that was that was because my biggest bet on the game was the Eagles. I think the Eagles to win the game or whatever the spread was at the time, and that lost. But the only reason why I didn't completely lose my ass is that one of my strategies going into that game 2 years ago was Eagles money line in the first half. And then at halftime, bet the Chiefs live. And that worked out perfectly. I think we could be looking at the same thing here. The Eagles have a lead going into halftime, and then the Chiefs are able to mount a comeback. And then, if you like that, how about this one I found on Hard Rock? Last team to score a point in this game, the Chiefs, minus 120. Thoughts?
Yeah, that's a good one. I love that. No, I think this game, we're expecting Mahomes to do Mahomes things, the Chiefs to find a way, whether that's a last-second field goal or holding a lead, with Chris Jones getting a sack at the end, Brandon. I'm all over that with you. That's a good one. That's a unique one. I'm looking, too, under game specials. You got both Eagles and Chiefs up for grabs at total touchdowns apiece at over 2.5. So basically, do you think either or both teams are going to score 3 touchdowns or more? For the Chiefs, it's not a great payout. It's 165 for the over. For the Eagles, it's 150 for the over. But I would probably bake that into some stuff. I would probably bet those.
Yeah. If you like that, then you like the over. I would just take the over in that scenario. Both teams are getting in the end zone 3 times. What about this one? Total field goals made in this game, under 3.5.
Yeah, field goals are so crazy, man. Because I do think that it's going to be a low. Like, I don't want to touch the kickers. I was looking at them too, just each individually. Elliott and Butker, just so dangerous because all it takes is 1 or 2 drives to stall. The only kicker I felt comfortable betting on at all this season was Brandon Aubrey for Dallas, hitting the over with him because I felt like he was just booting it. I go through these phases where I'm all over betting kickers. And then, I just sour on it so quick, and I'm sour right now.
Well, I just don't see either of these teams stalling out too much in the red zone. So that would be the thought behind the under. I don't think this is going to be a field goal. 4 field goals in a game is a lot.
It's a lot.
That is a lot. All right.
Yeah,
you like anything else before we boot Scoot and Boogie?
I do think it's fun to bet the anthem and the coin flip. I don't have any advice on it, but it adds a little bit more, even if it's only like a few bones. Just adds a little.
I don't even
juice,
know
baby.
who's singing the anthem this year. Who is it?
I don't know.
Well, you got to know if you're going to bet on it. You got to watch their previous anthems.
Yeah, I know. That's usually one where I'll look at it. I don't know. I haven't checked ahead of time. I just know the halftime show. Yeah, I don't know. I guess what do we got here? Give me 60 seconds. Super Bowl anthem.
I'm going to look up coin toss history. That way, in the Super Bowl, that way we know.
John Batiste.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's super dramatic. That's going to take.
Yeah, man. I'm taking the over. I'm all over the over with John Batiste.
For sure. Well, you got to look at the number, though. You can't just blind bet this stuff. But I would look. It's probably going to be past 136, I would think. So the coin toss has landed tails 30 times, head 28 times. So quite literally a coin flip here.
All right. We got to end on that. We can't come back from that.
That's going to be it. That's a wrap for this week's edition of the Zone Heads podcast presented by Kevin Crager with LPT Realty. When it comes to real estate, experience matters. Trust Kevin Crager to guide you every step of the way. Number right there on the screen. We'll put it in the episode description as well. Subscribe to this podcast channel. Check out the website, zoneheadsmedia.com. We can help with all of your media needs, and we will be back at it with another episode next week. You know what we'll be doing, Zach? Breaking down the Super Bowl.
Hey, I can't wait, man. Should be a fun weekend coming up.
I'm Brandon. He's Zach, and we'll chat next time.